Hi everybody, John here, and I had a really eventful weekend. I went to start working on johnwally.com and started looking at a few new updates that we could do and topics, and reached out to some friends and found out what they would want. And in the process, I figured, well, the first thing I need to do for search engine optimization is start setting up my SSL certificates. So I logged in, installed my certificate, got Apache running the right way, and for some reason, port 443 just would not answer the right way. And I played with firewall settings here at the house and just worked all over the place, and it didn't work. I could not do anything to get it to work, including turning firewall stuff on and off to see if that did it. And after a little bit of research, I ended up finding that it's a Verizon Fios thing. If you don't have a commercial account and you have a regular residential account, they do not allow you to actually go in and set up for port forwarding in a real way for hosting servers and that sort of stuff. And I guess that makes sense, seeing how my Fios 300 up, 300 down is cheaper than what you'd pay for business. And of course, you don't get a dedicated IP. So I went ahead and moved everything over this weekend, stood up with an old hosting company that I used to use, and they've been great, OVH. They're hosted out of Canada and California. And I'll talk a little bit about them in some of the blog posts. That's not super important here. So one of the things that we'll be covering is setting up web servers. Why not? It's kind of geeky, it's techie, and I figure I'll take you guys along for the ride. Today, I'll be covering just the piece of setting up the server. They provision the server, you get it. It's basically a default login of delete me, the way that I've set it up. And what we'll end up doing is going up and set up a user, do a little bit of hardening, not a lot at first, but let's just get this machine so that we can have a remote log into it instead of a remote desktop, and start locking down some of the stuff as far as logging in through SSH's root and stuff like that. So why don't we go ahead and jump in? All right, as I'm switching over to our remote desktop, one of the things that you'll see is the change my hostname login up, and you'll see that we're running Ubuntu 18.0.4. I'm going to log in as delete me, and delete me is just, like I said, that default account that we're doing and setting up in there. So we're going to have to change some of that, of course. All right, so I'm going to switch over to root real quick so that we can start doing some changes to the operating system. The first thing we'll do is we'll update our etc host file. Now, your etc host file is basically a way of telling your machine what to point to, what to look at, and you'll see in here that we're set up as 127.0.1.1 as basically the same as our local host. We're going to rename this to JW Web, and we'll also put our johnwally.com and our www.johnwally.com, just so internally the machine can know what it is. Sometimes Apache acts funny if you don't add that in. We'll go ahead and save that. I know I'm moving pretty quick, guys, sorry. Let's go ahead and update our host name as well. Instead of the change me, we will change it over to the JW-web as well. All right, let's save out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a user now, jwally. So we'll do add user. I can spell my name and enter our password. You can just hit return to all of these. Yes, we have the correct information, and let's exit out of this user. Well, actually, before we do that, let's go in and change and add ourselves to the sudo group. I don't want to delete that temporary one without us having sudo access. That would have been bad. All right, let's make sure that I have the permissions. Let's see if I can switch over. I'll sudo and just bash to make sure it works. And what's like I do, I have a elevated prompt. All right, so we exit out of that. And now we can actually list our permissions here as well. And if you look, user jwally can run all. So we're good. We're good to go here. So I'm going to exit out. Let's keep going all the way till we get back to our login, because we want to remove that other account. So I'm going to log in with my jwally, and we're going to delete the delete me account. All right, looks like we're done. Let's just elevate our privileges again and look at our home directory, and let's clean up any home directories in there that shouldn't be there to make sure we're starting with a good clean slate. So this rm-rf is a recursive delete from folders, so be really careful if you're doing this. Make sure you don't do that at a top level directory, or it could be really bad. And let's do this for this other DL, that was a delete me folder as well. Well, if I can type and talk at the same time. rm-rf, yeah. All right, so those are removed. Let's just check it. There we go. So I think we're pretty clean. Before we exit out of this real quick, I just want to check and see what our SSHD service allows, to make sure that we're not allowing any root logins. All right, so let's see. Permit root login is prohibit, but it's actually, it'll allow it through our prohibit password, but it'll allow you to do it through a certificate. We don't want to allow it at all, so it being commented out is just fine. Get out of that, and I think we're done here. While this reboots, it can take a few minutes. This is just the very beginning baseline of this, getting this server ready. We're not installing anything. Really just going through here, making sure that our server and our usernames and our host names are correct, so that we can gain remote access to the server. Once that's set up, we'll do everything through SSH, and instead of working through directly on the terminal like what you're seeing here. All right, we're logging into JW Web, so it looks like our host name worked. Thank you again, everybody. I know this was a short video. It's just the very, very beginning of what we're doing. Today, later on, I'll start setting up on how do we harden it. We'll update the server, and we'll start installing Apache. And there's a few steps under Apache that people don't usually take, but I want to make sure that it's all completely working flawlessly before we start adding to it and building databases and those sort of things. So part 2 is installing Apache with updates. Thanks a lot all, and I'll talk to you soon.